My opening reference this morning should not be taken as the absolute truth because I'm not sure I have all the facts right. But I was taught somewhere along the line about the universe and about the stars and the planets and galaxies. And somewhere I remember some teacher telling us, out in space, in these galaxies, stars tend to die. And when they die, they fold in on themselves more and more deeply until what results is a dense, dense, dense darkness. But the amazing thing is that if you could watch it happen, it suddenly breaks open into an amazing light, brighter than before. A light that perhaps even produces, as some think, a new galaxy. As though the front end we look at looks dark, and all of a sudden it opens up, as it were, like the flowers do that we see this time of year. And suddenly, even our spirits are lifted when we see that. We often in our church and in most Christian gatherings talk about Jesus and his death and how his death saved us from sin. But it's never quite clear how those two go together. I thought it might be helpful if we could think of sin as darkness and how easily the world chooses the dark. I choose the dark. Somewhere along the line, we choose the darkness of our lives, of our world, over against the light. Jesus came and announced himself to be that light in the midst of the darkness. And as he tried to spread that light, he met confrontation, he met judgment, he met denial, and it took him all the way back into death. And in that death, he was embracing even the darkness of death and taking that, redeeming it by simply giving it all over to God, all over to the Father he trusted as he went into death. And we know the story. We know that he was raised up shortly after that to become an amazing light. And so you all know, some of you know from firsthand experience, that on Holy Saturday night, to celebrate this, we go outside in the dark. We shut off all the lights around us, all the electrical lighting, and we light a fire. And out of that rather strong and wide fire, we reach in with a small taper, and we get one flame out of that big fire. And we carry it into a darkened church, and we sing its praises, because the darkness hasn't won, because that's burning. It's known by many names: the Paschal candle, the Easter candle, the Christ candle. For it is Jesus as the light of the world. And then if you were watching carefully that night, there's a spot where we bless the water of our font. All new water, all new for a new year. And in the middle of that blessing of the water, our deacon carries this over, takes it, and plunges it down into the water. Interesting image. It comes down into the water like Christ entered the Jordan. And that water becomes a new entry for us to the kingdom of God, a kingdom of light. And then slowly, everybody's candles are also lit that night, telling us, I participate in that light. Amazing, amazing. That is our gift that we receive. It's a gift we hope we can give as well. And so we go into a world of darkness, but we go into it baptized. We have all of these ways in which Jesus has revealed himself, and yet the darkness can come back so quickly in our lives. You take the two disciples that had just left the crucifixion scene in Jerusalem. They knew he was buried, and now they're walking in the midst of the light and they're in the dark. It's walking with them. And the only way Jesus can get them to see him is he says, what were you talking about as you walked along? Disclose to me the darkness that you've been discussing. And they say, oh, well, the one we thought would save us hasn't, and he was crucified and he's dead and he's in his tomb, and so some say he was raised up, but we didn't see that happen. And they're pouting and they're sad. And the light's walking with them, but he opens the scriptures to them and shows them how it was all supposed to happen and why it leads to the light. And then they have the courage and the openness to say to the light, that is Jesus, would you stay the evening with us and share our table? We have to stop for the evening. And he goes in first as a guest, and soon he's the host. Soon he's the one breaking the bread. And as he breaks the bread, like that star that opens up, he breaks the bread, and they recognize him in the breaking of the bread. And then he disappears. Why would he leave? So he could leave behind us the way we will always meet him when we feel like we're walking in the dark. In the word, in the bread, in the cup, he gave us there. And it's interesting. See, the first title of the Mass in the beginning of the church was the breaking of the bread. That's what they called it. Let's come and break bread. And in the breaking, we see ourselves differently. Because now that he has suddenly gone from our midst, we look around and say, maybe he wants us to be the light. You think? Yes. Warmed by the light, led by the light, refreshed and renewed and reborn in the water, and fed at the table. That's our life in that gospel. It's your life and it's my life. And now it's going to be Claire's life. Because we don't want her to walk in the darkness any more than we want to walk in it. And I know these parents will not let her get out very much into the dark. And so we invite them to come forward today with their child, with the godparents, so that all of us may participate in this moment of introducing this child to the kingdom of God.